Well, hello and welcome to the wrap. This is a show rounding up all things Zwift from the last week: racing, events, tech, fashion. We are live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. This is episode number 44. It's Thursday, May 18th. I'm Nathan Guerra, and Anna Russel is sat next to me virtually. And today on the wrap, we are going to be talking about Zwift update has landed and a whole lot of fixing bugs under the hood, it sounds like, as well as some cool features. I think I spotted RoboCop out on Zwift. There is also some new cool events and organization going out there. The Zwift Club Ladder, which I actually hadn't heard about until just a couple of days ago. Anna giving an explanation about it. Seems pretty cool. Summit Seeker Weekend. Hashtag Zwifters in the Wild. What is that all about? And Kristen Kulchinsky, kind of a highlight around that, who is Zwifter through and through, spotted out sniping Queen of the Mountain on Strava crowns. Our guest today also is Liz van Howling, 8th place at World Championships this year. She is a rider for NeXT Esports now. It's great to have her on. We'll be talking to her about her origin story and what she has been up to. And of course, our fashion show with the Ride Like King jersey, the Envy 7.8s for the garage pick. And then also, of course, with our guest, NeXT Esports does have a pretty awesome kit as well. So we'd love to hear your ratings from 1 to 10 in the chat about that. A lot to cover. So what's going on, Anna? And I think I have you muted. Are you muted? Yeah, you have you muted. I got you. There you go.
Oh, phew. Honestly, Nathan, like the technology issues that I've dealt with, if I look tired, it's
I
because
was
I was
just
up
trying to
so
stress you
late
out a
last
little more
night.
there than
Oh,
usual, like
oh my
because it sounds
gosh.
like it was a rough one recently.
And this is relevant to Zwift because, the first thought that goes through my head is I can't, how am I going to do the podcast? And then the next thought is, how am I going to do my Zwift sessions tomorrow? Like, we need to get this sorted now. I'm just going to say setting up a router is it's got to be one of the worst experiences of my life. I built a computer that was really fun. Setting up a router, anyway, it's wow. I thought I liked technology. I was just about to throw it out the window last night. So, anyway, thanks for just stressing me out a little bit more that my internet had dropped yet again. But it's feeling good. If I go back to complete non-internet, I went for that awesome 100K gravel ride last weekend, so that was good. I was just messaging Aaron in the chat that I really, really focused on my descents. So the descents, and maybe this will get touched on when we talk about Kristen Kulchinsky in the wild, and I know she'd had a crash a couple of years ago, is I descents always, even before I was a Zwifter and I rode, it's a control thing. Like I like the uphill. You can control your effort 100%. You can I'll go a little bit harder, I'll go a little bit slower. Descents, I just feel really like
Out of
you just have to
control.
kind of, you have to let go, like let it go,
Okay,
right?
we're just gonna skip right to what we've been up to for me as well this past week. And in the show notes, I didn't say it that we were going to talk about it because it was kind of like, do we talk about this? But in the show notes, there's literally Gabby cries. and,
I saw that.
and you're and Anna in the show notes put a response, WTF? What? Like, what's going on here? Well, and Gabby gave me the go ahead to talk about this, but last night we went through what you're talking about. But I mean, she broke her hip last last fall. She has had shoulder surgeries from skateboarding, major injuries there. Also crashing on motorcycles. I mean, she's done hang glide. I mean, she is a person who jumps off the cliff in a lot of ways and faces fears. But there's some trauma in there. It was just reality. We went to the rock gardens, and these were there's a UCI race locally, about 50 minutes away. We're racing it. There's 3 races this weekend, and she's a mountain biker, but Brazilian mountain biking is kind of like gravel, like on steroids. Like it's a really hard, like it's you if you try it on a gravel bike, it might work for you, but probably not so. But it's pretty wide open roads. There's not a whole lot of single track, at least in the area that she's in, or very technical rocky stuff. And she'd been always just like, give me the lightest bike you can, just this little twig of a bike that she had that couldn't handle much of anything. So we got her on this pivot that's a full suspension, some 2.4 tires. I mean, this thing's crazy for riding through this stuff. And we come up to the rock garden last night, and she stops, and then I'm like, all right, let's walk back up to the top, whatever. And I wasn't sure which way to coach it. Like there's 2 different ways to coach things. Like sometimes, like if you know they got it, and emotionally, mentally, it's just they're kind of like a little timid. You go, no, come on, and you kind of give it a little push. There were tears, and it was like I was, something else is happening here, and so slowly worked up to it, and eventually, it was like a fear of needles kind of situation because she rode it a couple times and looked like a pro, but in her head. And her story that was happening is it was scary as hell. What was happening there was not that I just wrote it like a pro. The story was this is still dangerous. This is horrible. And so eventually I was able to, and it was interesting. I've learned some things over the last couple of years about interacting with trauma responses. And I was able to employ it actually. It was really cool where I took some control of the situation up front and then, and was saying, this is how it goes, whatever. And then it was like, here, I'm handing you the control, though, of how much you want to interact with this thing. Go and just, we're going to sit here and wait when you want to go. And by giving that control to her, that time after she went through, it all felt way better. After she got into a safer place and felt safer about it, and then was able to interact with the thing that she was afraid of, bam, she was able to go and do it. She's like, that felt much better, boom, boom. And then by the end of it, she's like, I had fun. She was like, oh my gosh, I had fun. So
I think like the hard thing with descending, right? Because when you don't have, so my thoughts when I first start heading on the downhill is, oh my God, what if my handlebars break? What if the seat post comes off? What if I slide out on that corner and crash? So all the thoughts are just like, boom, straight into like worst case scenario. And it's really hard if you don't have that to understand why you're really timid. Because if you're just descending with free thought, you just kind of go down and you go descend and you don't think about it. And that's the best way to descend, right? You're relaxed and you're just going into the corners. Whereas I'm tense being like, something's going to happen the whole way down. And so like, I was actually kind of proud of myself. So probably I did this on myself as opposed to, I didn't want to have my riding partner who's a new friend have to coach me through the mentality of descending. But what I did was I was like, okay, I watched a ton of videos and was like, okay, obviously being in the drops is the best way to do this. And so I was like, every descent, I have to be in the drops. Every single descent, no matter how scared I am, I've got to be in the drops. And it kind of like, I found what helped was like have it like goal setting. Like if I just do that every single time, no matter how scared I am. And then I kind of got used to it. And I wouldn't say I'm like fast, but it was enjoyable. Like I kind of got the point of being in the drops. It was more enjoyable. My riding friends still like kicked my ass, but it wasn't like before where I was like up on the hoods and like my shoulders are up around my ears. So yeah, I think I can see Duncan coming into the chat too that like, yeah, it takes a while. I've had quite a few bad crashes, but I think I was bad at descending before those crashes. And the problem is I think that's what caused the crashes is because of the nervousness, right? Like I remember training camps in the Alps and like the descents last for like 40 minutes and I'm down, we get to the bottom and the other team is like, woohoo, that was awesome. And I'm like, what's that muscle? Like my arm pump here. I was like, I can barely move my forearms. Like my whole upper body was like rigid. So anyway, I guess we both had a little bit of a downhilling experience. Yours was on more of a positive side.
I mean, this obviously isn't a mountain biking necessarily podcast or a gravel podcast, but I mean, just it's like riding a wave. You can't control the water. There's nothing that you can do about the water itself. The water's going to do what the water's going to do, and you have to adjust to the water. And so when you try and control the water, you go down immediately if you're surfing. Like, you can't control it. You can only control the board over it, and you have to float over it the whole way. That's the best way. I mean, if you haven't done surfing, but you can see it and visualize it in surfing, I think, better than like. And then, anyways, I love personally my favorite thing in mountain biking. One of my favorite things is crazy rock gardens that you literally just float over, and it's like, how did that happen? But like it is just about letting go, zero control, other than like slightly letting the bike, like aiming the bike in the right direction and setting up the right way over and over again. Anyways, one of the people we're going to talk about today, I would think also would have a good handle on this is Ariel Verhaeren, because the BMXing side of things too is also where you learn this a little bit, because you got to just let go and let the bike flow through if you just pull up in the right ways, and the bike does the rest.
So I actually funny you say that, I actually mentioned Ariel on our ride because I've got this fear in my head that I'm so timid because I'm getting older. And, you know, like you have kids and you get older and that fear of crashing becomes overwhelming. So you just don't risk anything. And then I was like, no, that's like bullshit, because I just saw on Facebook Ariel doing these bloody jumps and like all the super rad stuff. I was like, no, get that thought out, because I think she's older than me. She's got kids, like, and she is like fearless, what it looks like, and she's had some horrific crashes. So I was like, okay, I need to channel a little bit of that like badass mum stuff going on. But talking about it from a Zwift component, though, I kind of, because it was such a long ride and I had a lot of thought process, I would be interested to know from other people who have primarily been on Zwift. Like, yes, I was a triathlete, but that's very one plane. You're not really descending like crazy. If you've come mostly through Zwift, I just wonder if this is a common thing, because on Zwift, everything is within your control, basically. Like everything is in this environment of control, apart from like internet dropouts and things like that. But that's not gonna, that'll crush your like soul. It's not gonna crush your body. But yeah, I kind of just want to know. I think it could be like a little thing there, and maybe Liz can talk about it a bit too when she comes on. I just wonder if that too controlled environment can impact a little bit when you get out onto the real roads.
Yeah, I think that's definitely that's a thing. That's definitely a thing. Well, but we'll have to couch that one for now, and maybe we'll talk to Liz about that. But I think that's a whole ball of wax. We got to get into it another time. Since we're talking outdoor stuff, let's just real quickly. One topic that I didn't mention in the opening is what is going on at the Giro. I just want to mention it real quickly. One of the largest Grand Tours in the world, and I saw one of our past guests, actually, Abby Mickey, wrote over on Twitter today, I think it was, that, yeah, I saw this from her. She was saying that things are so crazy, it's just hard to even watch right now because of all the crashing, the COVID taking riders out, even Pole is out. I mean, it's rough over there. And then I think there's flooding, which I really appreciated that on GCN, I was watching GCN Plus for today's stage, and they actually made a mention like, hey, this is just a bike race, and there's so much water coming down in Italy right now that there's flooding in certain areas, and they had to like close down certain areas of, I think, of the courses and stuff because of it. So like there's bigger issues than whether or not somebody's winning a bike race going on. So like that's how much water though is going into the Grand Tour right now out of the skies.
So, oh man, this is going to start a huge topic, but I've actually, the work I do, off Esports is, part of like event people who deliver event forums and things like that. And one of them recently, we talked about like future risk. And like, I'm not kidding, like they're pretty concerned about the impacts of climate change. And you look at like, particularly with what's happening in the Giro, I just wonder if the cycling season is going to start to get squeezed a little bit with these Grand Tours because they go too late and they're getting like crazy temperatures. I think it was the Vuelta last year, maybe like just insane heat waves. And then they're going a little early, like the Giro. And I mean, there's still snow over all the passes. There's these floods happening. Like it's just pretty extreme. I know there's extreme weather a lot, so I don't want to like open this huge bag of worms, but I think, yeah.
But from a getting a cycling done perspective though, and what you're saying about like, hey, in order to complete a 3-week bike race, there's certain seasons that you might, or places that you might be able to do it or not be able to do it well, is what I think you're getting at.
Yeah, and also like just running the Tour Down Under in the summer in Australia, like it gets up to like 40 degrees there. Like it is hot. So I think it's playing out pretty interestingly. I mean, if we go back to the Giro, I have kind of been watching it. Like, I'm not going to lie, it's like boring AF. Like, it's just like Evenepoel. Like, I love Roglic. Like, my heart is with Roglic. And I was looking forward to the battle between the two of them. Like, really looking forward to it. So when Evenepoel's out, even though I'm not like a huge fan, Evenepoel. Even though like I'm not a huge fan, I'm like, well, that's dumb. Like there's no tension there. And then I was like, okay, I'll get G'd up for like the Gegenhardt Roglic battle. And then Gegenhardt goes out with a crash. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is like, I'm scraping to get motivation.
Here's the thing. I've never seen, I mean, I've seen rough starts to a Grand Tour, and I've been watching Grand Tours since about 2000. Okay, like I've been watching Grand Tours for a while. My introduction to cycling was right around then. I've never seen it this rough. Like I don't know if chat can help us out. Somebody let us know on socials if like you're like, no, this has happened before. Let me know. I've never seen the first 11 days of a Grand Tour start with this many crashes, this much, like, well, then there's the addition, we've never had pandemic things happening, so has anybody seen anything like that? Like, just wondering. I mean, that's this is definitely, so that's why we put that in the notes, was just like, whoa, what is going on? This is pretty crazy. And we've also had some people related to it on the podcast, so go ahead.
Yeah, well, on that, I'm not giving away a result because I actually don't know. And Charles is not going to give it away in chat. So thanks, Charles. Abby's husband, Tom Scoins, was in the break today. So he could have been the winner of the stage. So you probably know this, but don't give it away. I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't watched it yet either. I have not watched it either.
Okay.
But she had said this morning the only reason that she's watching the rest of the tour is because of watching that. And it looks like it went pretty well for watching today, but we'll see what went down.
Oh, okay. Right, I'll check that out.
Yeah. So
Zwift update.
Zwift update. Let's get right on into that. Zwift update. It is 1.4, I believe. It's a release after 1.39. And Zwift Insider did a cool little post, as they always do. First and foremost, let's get through the painful stuff. What'd they say about that?
Cliff Notes version, basically like, oh, sorry team, version 1.39 wasn't really at the quality. We're sorry about that. We want you to have a great experience, and this broke a lot of those great experiences. I don't know if it affected you directly. It definitely did me in two ways. One was that, there were like 5 courses that were affected, right? Where you couldn't have events on those courses anymore. I kid you not. For the Oz Cycling Series and the Try and Z Series, I had them both on a course that was listed. I was like, tell me no. But James was awesome, and we switched it to a different course last minute. But of course, riders are like, what? I went and reconned the course. I'm like, I'm sorry. Either I don't change it and you're just going to go ride off in some random direction during the race, which I don't think you're going to like, or I'm going to have to do a last minute change. So there was that, which was funny. Sorry, I've got to give a really funny side story too, is when I did that, I also messaged and said, remember last week we're on a time trial bike. This week, remember to get those roadies. There's a few beginners out there. So I was like, remember to get back on your roadie. So there were 2 people. And this is where I'm like, wow, there are people who, are really beginner to Zwift, right? Emailed me and said, one said, I've only got a road bike at home. I was like, oh, no. Just put whatever bike on the trainer. And then the other one said,
oh, no.
That she hadn't been changing her Zwift garage.
Wait. Like,
she had literally been switching, a road bike to a TT bike every week. So that was the other one. Every week when I'd said, make sure you use a TT bike, she'd got her TT bike out of her literal garage, put it on, but not changed Zwift.
That's like like so innocent, like kind of a moment. You know what I mean? Ouch.
I was just like, wow. Okay.
So make sure you get on the TT bike, and then they're switching their bike in real life.
And not in the game.
Ouch.
It was so hard.
So now they're riding like a setup that's more difficult to ride too. Like on top of a slower bike.
Yeah. So
and they're probably on the Zwift, and they're probably on the Zwift default too, because they just never swapped their bike.
Exactly. It's like, this is just.
So I wonder, what was that revelation like? Was there some laughter at least after they figured out what was going on? Or was it like?
Well, they were like, one of them was a little bit antsy, like, this, I shouldn't have to go buy a TT bike. I'm like, oh no, like I just mean in the game. Like, here's an article, and I was like, oh no, like,
they thought you had to go buy a TT bike. Oh my gosh, they were trying to they thought you were trying to make it fair, like probably or something. They were like, you have to ride because maybe they've seen the esports thing where like there's cameras on them, and they're like, I'm gonna get busted. Oh shoot,
I know. It was quite entertaining. So that's one way it affected me, was the courses. The other way is in broadcast. So whenever I went to go watch a rider, the whole side screen of all the riders would just crazy scroll up and down and up and down and up and down. So I couldn't.
Yeah, that was definitely a bug. I did not like. I noticed it right away. I was actually in a meeting showing something about Zwift, and went in and was like, that's not, why can't I just be on someone? What the heck? And I was trying, and so I was like, how am I going to broadcast if I have to broadcast an event? This is going to be impossible. Like, no way. So
so there. But there are a couple of bugs. So I went through the list. There's a whole list on Zwift Insider of all the things they fixed. But there are a couple of fixes that I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder why they didn't just keep that in there. So
So
one
like
of them
what?
was one of them was they fixed an issue where the running kit changed colors mid session. I was like, how rad. Like, imagine if you were like in a race and you were leading the points and your jersey just changed color automatically to a leader's jersey, like live leader's jerseys. I was like, damn, that's awesome. There was another one where dust and rain were glowing. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, I saw that one. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, well, maybe we need to do something with that.
Yeah, I was like, damn, like glowing rain and dirt. Like, that's pretty cool. And then another one, which I'm so glad about because I thought I was going crazy, was I'd ridden the France route at some point and actually messaged on screen to just the random people I was like riding around as well. I was like, are there more cobbles here? And yes, there were more cobbles added to France.
They were like,
that was a bug.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it said there are additional cobble sections in France. I was like, just keep them in there.
I thought they were
that
hidden.
was cool.
Okay, so they were actual more. I thought they were like it was regular road, but it was acting like cobbles, and somebody got it because like their tax or whatever was giving them a cobble feel. But so there was actually
maybe.
more
I don't know.
cobbles.
I remember riding and just being like, there's a lot more cobbles that I remember here. But I just thought like, maybe I'm just going crazy. But no. So anyway, I was like, damn, no, make that whole RGV route cobbles or something, because then it'll make it a little bit more interesting.
So one of the biggest, though, I want to say upsides for me, because I kind of like the new look, but some people are like, whatever. So let's go ahead and take a quick look here. We've got, they're calling them, so this is probably why they call them Robo Pacers. This is why, because I was like, I don't know, Robo Pacer, it's a pace partner, but now that they actually kind of look like RoboCop, I think that like they look like a robot. Like, so it makes a lot of sense. I'm actually trying to load up Zwift here, but it's taking a little while. Maybe that has something to do with it.
But the Robo Pacers, if you haven't seen them, go check it out on the Zwift Insider article. I like them. Like, it looks very cool. I mean, they look slightly evil, which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. Like, you'll kind of be riding with them and like, oh, what an evil person look. There we go.
Now, the bug that we were talking about might get me a little bit. Now, I have the pedaling thing, though, in front of me, so sorry about that, guys. There's nothing I can do about that. It's going to be sitting there for 30 seconds. So maybe I can just show you guys the video here on Zwift Insider as well, or at least give you a look here. But if you haven't checked it out and you're listening on the podcast, there's the look of Constance, the red Constance. Here's a little
Looks like
video.
the Terminator, right?
Yeah, a little bit Terminator.
Yeah,
something like that. So Robo Pacer, that's the new
it's cool.
look.
There's a lot of people riding with that A-bot actually from that screen.
Well, they've been taking my advice about all of the aim labs that we've been doing, I think, and figuring out how to make that happen. Like, it's actually okay. The A-bot is easier in some ways than all the other ones because there's always less people. I can average on a flatter course almost sub 3 with the A-bot, depending on the course. If we get on Fuego Flats, it gets really difficult, actually, because there's so many people to go through and a lot of yo-yoing. But on most other flatter courses, like, A-bot is actually easier than some of the B-bots that have more people with it.
I actually went and rode with the B-bot that only had a few people just from the time of day I was doing it, which was a lot easier than I thought. I'd always been a little bit scared, but I'm like, I'm going to ride with you for an hour. And it was actually on a course. I always choose the hilly courses because it gives me a little bit of an edge on the climbs. But yeah, it was good. We did like big foothills or something. It was actually quite enjoyable. So yeah, no, it was nice.
Are they a little bit hollow? They're still like a hollow, though, it looks like. No, really. Like, they're kind of see-through still, though. You see that?
Yeah. Look at those red eyes. Tell me that does not look evil. Go front on. That is evil looking.
Now, like, it's only Constance that has the red eyes, or no? I wonder.
Oh, I don't know.
Look at those arms. Look at that.
Yeah, that's the Terminator guy. He's just going to take the gloves off and like pull out that knife thing. Oh, that's scary. I still love it, but man, that is. Now
they got to match the bike. They got to match the bike. Like, why is it an orange? Yeah, no, like the bike's got to match. Come on now, man. All right. Well, that's the new robo
yeah.
pace.
Okay.
I think
scary.
that's kind of
there we go.
that's kind of one of the bigger highlights. I think of this patch or of this update. Or is there anything else that really
absolutely.
caught your
And I
eye?
feel like that's quietly been slipped in there. Whereas I was like, man, that's awesome. Like a new looking robo pacer. Come on, we're in the Zwift off season. We'll take whatever we get. That looks great.
There was a leak that I saw of the climb portal, actually, but it's not the art or anything. So there is a video out there that sounds like with a leak of it, but it just looks like essentially it's not even really a leak. It seems like it's just like enters into an Alp to Zwift like space. Like that's what it kind of seems like, but it's on like a different climb. So, but none of the artwork is there. None of the like stuff that Zwift are actually doing. So it essentially looks like the same game experience as you get on Alp to Zwift, but it doesn't have all the other bells and whistles around it. It looks like I wouldn't really call it a leak, other than like I think somebody figured out a way to ride that course. Yeah, but it's like there's nothing there. It looks like just almost like you're in a no world. Nothing's loading. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's no world actually loading. Yeah.
I went and did Titans and went on camera 0 and zoomed right out and had a look at that new Repack Ridge stuff. It looks cool.
You saw something in there? I haven't done that yet.
Oh yeah, there's like start pins. There's an actual like banner, like a proper banner. So there'll be a segment in there, and it looked like, I got quite excited. I was like, oh, that's way bigger than I thought. And the other thing, it was kind of like longer and a definite pen and some start banners. So it looked ready to go. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out in an update pretty soon. And I've seen a lot of people on steering lately as well. Like I saw just them adding it to the home screen. Like I saw James Barnes used it in a race as well, and he said it made the sprint pretty wild. So yeah, get on there and practice your steering, because I think that new course is going to be pretty fun when that opens up.
100%. So what else do we the next up? So let's talk about this real quickly. And I want to promote and throw out there this idea of Zwifters in the Wild. It's a hashtag I want people to start using, and we would love to feature your outdoor rides. Now, I'm wondering, how cold is it getting down there? Like, you're still riding gravel. You could do a Zwifters in the Wild post. I mean, you're outside riding gravel right now. Hashtag Zwifters.
And I'm going mountain biking, so I'll hashtag it for sure on that one.
There we go. So if you hashtag Zwifters in the Wild, we would love to see that out there. And it's part of the reason why we are also highlighting. Now, the Kristen Kulchinsky thing, it caught our eye, though, also because Kristen is just known as somebody who is 100% Zwifter. She got into the cycling world as a indoor cyclist. There is no other, and then got her way to being one of the most well-known women competitive athletes, representing USA, world championships, etc. And now, all of a sudden, I'm noticing she's calling them joyrides. That's what she's calling them, it looks like. Joyride number 12. This is actually going to be her Strava. I'll go ahead and bring it up here. And every joyride has a Queen of the Mountain on it. So Joyride 10. I mean, there's like almost every single one of these, which is pretty cool to see, I think. And talk about conquering fears, like, that's part of the reason I brought it up too, though, is I think this is my assumption. So I'm just assuming, but a couple years back, she got on team 2020 when she first jumped on. Now it's team 2024, Virginia Blue Ridge 2024. And, she was being coached by Josh Lipka, riding for the team, and, got on a road bike, had the support of the team. And I think there was like, hey, everyone's going outside. And, you go from racing inside with everybody that's like your team. And it's like, she talks a lot, actually, when I talk to her about how much they mean to her and how much these experiences mean to her. And like, I think all of a sudden that just disappears. And then the whole team is outside riding. It was like, well, I got to go outside and ride. And so gets on her felt bike and boom, and like is super strong. But you ever like, throw 400 horsepower engine into like a car that's just not ready for it, and that can be a situation that's like, wow, what happened? Out of control, you know what I mean? And I think there was a crash, And I'm like super proud of her. I think it's awesome. Like, good job for getting back out there and now killing it. And I think now that she's got these carrots to chase, I think you're going to see like, oh, the crown chasing's a thing.
Because one thing I kind of thought, she should do that Mount Washington hill climb thing that Courtney Nelson won, because you don't have to descend, right? I'm sure you could just get a lift down in a car or something. So she could she'd be pretty good at that, right? I'd imagine she should get out and give it a try.
Well, that's her thing, right? Like, if you guys hit a climb, I would assume everyone's like, Kristen's going to go do her thing. Watch her go. So,
I mean, she has become a more well-rounded rider with the sprinting and stuff that we saw leading into Worlds. But yeah, I mean, if I was her, I'd go like nail those hill climbing comps IRL. Why not?
Yeah, and with like predictive, like if we are doing some like any kind of like, oh, what's this athlete going to do or whatever, and what have they been up to and how have they been getting stronger? If she is getting the sprint better, usually there was some weightlifting that went along with that. If there's more total body work going on, then the balance is going to get better. And then from there, getting outside, it looks like there's a lot more confidence this time around. So good on her.
Yeah, it's cool.
And cool to see, one of the top Zwifters getting outside and grabbing a bunch of Queen of the Mountains. Very cool. And let us see your post, though. Zwifters in the wild, hashtag Zwifters wild. One more Zwifter in the wild. Ariel Verharen, another one this past week. Worlds, USA representative. She seems to be winning every single thing. I mean, talk about taking Zwift fitness. And I think when I talked to her also, it didn't seem like there were a bunch of plans to do this, but I think I get the feeling that it's like there was all this fitness and it was just like, let's just go for it. And like, she's winning every race she's jumping into.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, so good. And she's got like I said earlier in the show, like she doesn't have that like Kristen does of going from esport into in real life and having that fear factor. I mean, Ariel's like crazy kick-ass and the most scary one, which I'd say is BMX, into esport and now out. I mean, she's just like, good luck anyone racing with her. I don't know how you're going to beat her.
100%. Yeah. It'd be good. I hope that she gets a little bit able to travel and be able to see her at some races. It'd be pretty cool. And that's a shout out to everybody out there. If you are going to any races that we are going to, love to see it. Well, let's bring our guest in, though. She's been on the podcast before. Liz van Howling, 8th at World Championships, was riding for your team, Anna, but it looks like a little bit of what you were excited about, the drafting of riders and figuring out who's going to ride for who has gone down, which is a really good thing, actually, to see a little competition for that in the community. Liz, welcome to the program. It's good to see you. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing very well.
Awesome. Well, Anna, you wanted to bring Liz on. Why don't you go ahead with introduction here?
Oh, well, I wanted Liz to come on. I mean, I could kind of like with 2024 and Team Riot, you can start this like whole narrative of like all this competition, but then I'm like, let's get on the podcast and like talk through what's happening in women's racing. Cause I think I'm loving the fact that there's a couple new teams coming on. So there's NeXT and BL13. And I reached out to Liz because I was like, well, I kind of want a NeXT rider to come on and talk to us because I think there's exciting things happening in the women's space with these teams coming in. And Liz is, at the pointy end of this and is, I guess, now the founding member of this women's team. So, Liz, I guess the first thing is, I mean, I know it, but what's your like origin story with coming on Zwift? And then sort of moving through, you've been racing with Saris and the Grand Prix stuff into the esport worlds. And then sort of how did things evolve with NeXT?
Yeah, so I used to race outside a lot, did quite a few disciplines there. And then like a lot of women, I got married and got pregnant and took about 5 years off the bike. And then when my son was 1, I got tired of feeling out of shape. So that was December of 2020. My brother-in-law actually gave me a free trial, like a gift card thing for Zwift. So I started in December of 2020 on Zwift and right away jumped into the racing scene and got fitness back really quickly because I went from doing nothing to like riding consistently again. So it's always really motivating to see the numbers and get really quick improvements initially. So kind of got a little bit addicted to the racing side of it. And so I raced mostly mixed B racing for the first year. And then the Continental qualifiers in November of 2021 was basically my first ever women's only race. So I didn't really know how I stacked up against the other women on Zwift, but secured my place on the US team for Worlds at that race. And then in January of 2022, I joined the Sarah Snowpins team to do some of the more elite level women's racing. And then, I got to race Worlds in 2022 and 2023.
So, and from there, you also were a Zwift Academy finalist too. That was also a part of this story. I know it didn't end exactly how you had wanted to, but I wanted to focus on the accomplishment of that too. Like that's a huge accomplishment and also an undertaking that shows a lot of commitment to this space. I mean, obviously World Championships and kind of the qualifiers and all these, and riding for an esports team. In our pre-show, you really talked a lot about the passion that you have for that and looking for like-minded women to race with that kind of passion. And it sounds, just the amount of commitment that you have to this space it just seems phenomenal.
Yeah, I love bikes of all sorts, and right now with two little kids, like this is what I can do, and it's manageable and it's fun. And so I think that there's a lot of other women specifically in that same kind of space. And I think Zwift is just a huge opportunity to bring more women into the sport and in a less intimidating environment. I know Anna was talking about her fear of descending. Like there are very few barriers other than technology to getting into virtual racing. So if I can help bring more women in and teach them and just be encouraging and just get a positive environment, a positive culture. And it's, the people racing at the elite end is one thing. And then you've got, moms that have a kid napping for a half hour, they can get in a 20-minute workout. Like you can do whatever you can do on Zwift. So I get, super passionate about it. And I just think that it's got something for everyone.
I think, Liz, when I was doing a watch party for the Worlds with Chris Schwenker from Zwift, I said, the fact that what happened with the Zwift Academy, which was pretty heartbreaking if you were watching it, and I'm sure immensely heartbreaking if it was you. But I was like, that'll give you so much motivation and drive heading into Esport World Champs, right? Because you'd carried all this fitness now and you had a bit of the hunger there to sort of remedy, a broken dream, I guess, of what had happened with the Zwift Academy. So can you tell us sort of how was that going from that disappointment? Because it could go either way, right? You could have the disappointment and then just completely lose motivation, but you didn't, obviously. You went forward and had even more motivation. So can you talk through a little bit of like that journey between the academy leading into Esport World?
Yeah, so the whole point kind of doing Zwift Academy was try to force myself to do structure. And I knew that I had been racing too much and I was getting really burnt out on racing and just wasn't honestly in a great place physically or mentally. So Zwift Academy was supposed to be my introduction to structure. And then, I got picked to be a finalist. And honestly, I think it was a blessing that I got COVID because I was not in the right mental place to be participating in Zwift Academy, to be honest, I don't think. But then when I got back, I kind of reset and I just like doubled down on esports is what I can do right now with where I am in my life. And I need to do it in the best way possible for me. So my husband actually was the one that encouraged me to get a coach when we got back home. So I started working with Alex Co. And we just basically completely changed how I was training and just introduced a lot of structure, and I wasn't racing much. So my preparation before Worlds of 23 was completely different from Worlds of 22. And, we just focused a lot on my weaknesses and on the actual demands of the race. I did very little actual racing, and then the courses themselves didn't even open up until a week or two, whatever it was before. So, and on the New York course, I did that exact hill climb so many times, and my confidence was from knowing the course and from knowing how to race it to my strengths. And then in 23, I had to rely on getting confidence from my fitness and actually training intelligently. And I was only riding, 7 to 8 hours a week, but everything had a purpose and intent, and, trying to eliminate other life stressors. So it was just a complete change from the year before. And it's been huge, and it's brought a lot more balance to my life.
How was that then in the experience of it? So that was the preparation coming in and the differences in preparation and what you were doing toward that. And I can totally relate on the structure thing, adding that and the things that it can do for your life in general. And then the experience of actually racing Worlds. I mean, you made top 10. 8th place is an amazing result amongst the best in the whole entire world. How did you feel about that? And like, what was it like experiencing it?
Yeah, it was a lot different. I mean, last year, in 22, I basically was trying to be as lazy as possible the whole race and then go as hard as I could up the last 2.5 minute climb, And this race, it was 3 back-to-back ones. And I just felt like James Barnes helped me a lot in preparing. Alex obviously helped me a lot preparing. My husband was super supportive. So I felt like I had a lot more of a team and support network, and people invested in my journey. And then, Ryan stood by me the whole race, and just even during the race itself, I could feel that I had a lot more support and people behind me in this year's race. And then, it was kind of like just make it through each race with as little energy expenditure as possible. I didn't do a ton of the back-to-back racing before, so I had an idea of what I should be doing in between each racing, but that was still kind of a learning process. And fueling was something Alex and I really worked on. And I think with more time, I could have done better with the fueling aspect too. But it's definitely different. It's not about producing one maximal effort. It's more about that resistance to fatigue and repeatability of submaximal, which was definitely not my strength before. So it's what I've been working on more, I would say. But yeah, I mean, it's different. It feels much different than outdoor bike racing now because it is something unique to esports, which I think is good, and we'll adapt and take the good stuff and hopefully get rid of some of the bad stuff and find a good format.
Those are 2 really different types of pain on the bike too. Repeatability, like going over and over again at super, super high, but maybe not. I mean, maybe it feels like maximal when you're going for it, but that, it makes me think of hill repeats, and you hit the hill, whatever it is, full gas over the top, and then you come back down, and then it's halftime rest and go right back. Those are some, or else micros or lactate tolerance repetitions where it's 30 seconds, 15s. Those are some of the most painful experiences on the bike you can get into. Whereas, I mean, in one way, and then there's attack off the front in a group, and it's the steady threshold TTT kind of pain. And those are 2 really, really different kinds of pain. They're, at least for me on the bike, they feel a lot different. Do you feel that way or no? At least for me, I think that.
Yeah, I do, definitely. And I think the training really helped replicate that for me, because before, when I would race, maybe other people are better at this than me, but I would go hard and then you get dropped and then you just quit, right? And you don't keep trying for stuff. So I felt like that's why I was really lacking in that area of my fitness, because in races it was you would just go until you got dropped, or it was the one you sit in until the sprint at the end. So Alex recognized the demands of that race specifically, I think, and just the way esports is heading. So I've definitely been working on that a lot more lately.
I did still find it interesting though. When I was watching it and you had that top 10 in there, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Los Edegest was the only what I would call obviously she's a Zwifter, but a more of an in real life rider. I mean, she's winning stage races at the moment and I'm seeing her out there crushing it. I was she's got to get beaten by a Zwifter here, but I think she still, I guess, has that immense actual in real life cycle training behind her as well, where they're going to altitude camps and they're doing team training. And I think she, I guess, understands the Zwift component of power ups and all of that, and when to drop them and when to go. But do you think, what we've gone into a real worlds discussion, but I'm kind of interested because I'm watching her in real life as well, and she's obviously really good. What do you think it was that got her ahead? Was it just that extra training capacity she has from being a professional cyclist compared to, like, you know, a mum of two who's training 7 hours a week? Or is there a way to beat that in real life cyclist who comes on and competes at Worlds?
I do think a lot of it's the depth of training and like just being good enough at the Zwift craftness of it. I also think the power ups weren't super impactful for this year's Worlds. I think with different ones it could have been slightly different, but I also think people in general, like at this point, if you're racing at that level, you know how to use them. And I think this year in particular, with the back to back to back racing, it was going to produce a winner that was the best all around rider. I mean, you had to have everything to be able to do that. But she won. I mean, she won the 3-minute power test too, so she's just really really strong. But I do think that I would like to think that I could still beat her. Like, she's not unbeatable. And I think as Zwift continues to change back dynamics and power up features, like, you have to involve with to be able to compete at the highest. So I do think I really wanted to see a pure Zwifter win this year, and I do think that it's possible for you to win Worlds training 7 hours a week. I do. So I think it's a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess moving away from the world's discussion, I mean, one exciting thing, and I hope that this keeps developing in esport, is what I'll call like the contract season. So you have this in real life where up until like August 1st, you've got all the sort of drama behind the scenes of people changing teams and things like that. And I'm drumming up drama because there isn't any. But I do think it's exciting that some teams have emerged. Riders are kind of switching around. There's a bit of like recruiting happening. And I mean, I do wonder as well with the latest Zwift women's series at race that I dropped into like one race and was like, oh, this is not what I feel like right now. It was like intense racing. And I wonder if people are sort of putting themselves out there a bit to sort of be like, hey, look, I've got really good numbers, and keeping an eye on, you know, what I'm doing, and I'm still racing, and I want to get picked up by some teams. So you've gone from Sarah Snowpins, you're the first pickup, I think, for NeXT. So you're kind of like helping with the recruiting drive. I mean, how has that switch been to NeXT? Are you, have you got any more riders coming on? Give us a bit of a sort of a rundown of what's happening there behind the scenes.
Yeah, so NeXT Esports powered by Insured, we're launching a women's team. I'm super excited about it. They kind of approached me and asked if I would help head up it, and my I don't want to steal riders from other teams, especially Grand Prix teams. So it's been a bit of a touchy subject, and then for a while we couldn't even announce that we were creating a team. So I kind of just asked a lot of other women who were happy and didn't really go further than that at first, just to gauge people's interest, like in how they were with their current team, and if they were potentially looking for a new team. And I think the thing that we want to build at NeXT is just really that culture, and I'm excited about the opportunity to help create that and be a team that's primarily focused on esports racing specifically. The men's team already kind of established as the best, so the opportunity to be a part of that and learn from them and take advantage of those resources has been incredible. And I'm really honored that they asked me to be a part of it. So yeah, I think we just want a team. I think a lot of women's teams don't have a ton of support, and a lot of them kind of have outdoor racers that just jump into the Zwift world in the indoor season. So I would like to have like a core group that is esports specific and just very, very focused on the team, because that's the way esports racing seems to be headed. A lot of the racing is team scoring. So having a well-balanced team, a lot of different strengths, people that are willing to work together and, you know, do their homework before, know the rules, and communicate during the race. So we're looking to create.
NeXT seems to be really, really committed to that as well. I mean, it makes a lot of sense where you're able to hit on common themes there. And I mean, my conversations with NeXT, they don't. This is it for them. Like this is the place where they launched entirely everything about their whole program seems to be 100% esports. That this is, I mean, it's in the name. There isn't any other focus that I can see with the team. And so is that actually encouraging to you? Like some teams I think have this, we do Zwift here, we do in real life here, you know, and there's a few different disciplines that are related to what we're up to as well. Is that kind of encouraging that like, hey, this team's just focused on this, and when I'm interacting with this team, that's all I got to really focus on, and that kind of aim keeps it simple, but sometimes simple in that respect is really, really good because you can just get it done really well.
Yeah, for sure. At this stage, I'm not doing a ton of outdoor racing, and anything I do outside is going to be hopefully for fun. And my primary focus is on esports, and anything that I can do to be surrounded by positive people that are also passionate and knowledgeable and have the resources to help me learn and reach my potential is super exciting for me.
So if you're looking at team recruiting, like I find it quite interesting from having raced some of the Grand Prix, and like you kind of nicely alluded to before, hopefully some of the bad stuff will get rid of before the next season. But like when you're looking at a team and you guys are coming up with like you said, an esport team. So it's not sort of like, oh, we've got a rider here and a rider there. And if you've got some time in the weekend, can you come on and do this race? So you're looking for an esport team. Are you kind of looking for specific riders? Are you like, okay, we need a 5-minute power rider. Okay, we need a sprinter. Because when I looked at some of the Grand Prix races, there was that one in Watopia, where one teammate had to do like basically a 15-second all-out sprint. Another, you and I went up the Watopia, so it was basically a 2 to 2.5 minute effort. And then the others kind of went on Fuego Flats. So again, it was kind of a long range sprint. Are you developing a team around power profiling?
I think it's important to have all of that within the team. I wouldn't say we're like looking specifically at individual riders and saying this is like pigeonholing, this is the role you're gonna play. But I think it's important to have a variety of strengths. And then the bigger thing is just going into each race with a plan, and each person knows what their job is, and picking, if you have the luxury, like picking a roster suited for that individual race. And like I would love to come out swinging, win the first Grand Prix season, but I also just want to create a positive culture for women to enjoy and have friends that like racing together. And I'd love to like race other than just the Grand Prix stuff, just do fun low pressure races together, because then you're going to learn more about them like personally and as a bike racer. So yeah, I think you just need a well-balanced team, but you also need the team to feel like a team so that they can race as a team. And then just going in with a plan and be huge, because I don't think that every women's team does that or has the luxury, honestly, of like having the power to be able to do that.
So
yeah, absolutely.
On that front then of the types of power profiles that are needed, the changes in this whole space of like who you need, what you might need, that does relate to what is happening with what is being organized out there. And I'm just wondering, like, were you a fan of GP and like Zwift Grand Prix style? Is there a type of racing that you really like that you're looking forward to? What would you see as the future of this space, specifically around events as well?
I like that they're trying new things. They're putting forth effort, so that's good. It's definitely more team based, so I think like having a team behind you would make it more of an experience. Some weeks were definitely better than others, so I hope that they can take things that receive positive feedback and build off of that and get rid of some of the less great. As the mom of 2 kids, I don't like having 2 hours of break time when you're racing 30 minutes of that. So like the super, that's not like the ethos of esports racing either. It's like the time crunch people that are working or our parents, like nobody has time. Well, most people I feel like don't have time to spend that kind of time on the bike. And there's already enough extra stuff that you have to do for the elite racing anyways. So the super long extended stuff, I wasn't really a fan. But like the world's format with the back-to-back racing, it's freaking hard, but like I think it does produce like a worthy winner. And I think those kind of changes, instead of just everyone cruising around for 20 minutes and then seeing who has the best 15-second sprint, like there are positive changes that are happening. And I think just the focus on having more team scoring and having more people that can contribute to the team and being rewarded for knowing the rules ahead of time, honestly, like very, very esports specific. And so if esports wants to create its own niche and its own kind of audience, I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, Liz. Like, obviously, being a mum of 3 myself, some of those races were, I get hours allocated to like me time during the week. And after 2 hours, and was like, oh, I've done two times up the Watopia QOM. Cool. Well, that was my 2 hours that I got allocated on the bike. So that's kind of gone. And I think as well, I mean, like you said, I think it's good they're trying something new. I think what was interesting is like they went from, I think, one extreme to the other. There was just, where it was Grand Prix was just you race and there were points at the end, and it was a little bit boring because it was just kind of, there wasn't much happening in the middle, to extreme Grand Prix. So it's good to kind of, they went 2 extremes. And I think like you, I agree with you. Hopefully they'll settle somewhere in the middle that's a bit more like Esport Worlds, but yeah, it rewards preparation, it rewards Zwiftcraft. Because I think the part that got me a little bit demotivated with Grand Prix was, I mean, I'm a Zwiftcraft rider. Like I don't have the power numbers that some of these other women do, like yourself, but I can craft the shit out of it, right? Like get into a draft, know when to go, know all the points, know everything really well. But like, if you're just going to put me up against everyone on a 3-minute power test, like, well, there's no Zwiftcraft there. It's just like you lay down some watts and go as hard as you can. So all the prep work you do, riding with pace partners, doing practice races, all of that was a little bit nullified. And it really just became who can put out the best power.
So
yeah, I agree. Some formats were much better than others. And like, I don't want to have to. You're already so tired. They were so complicated, some of them, and we didn't have like a designated DS that wasn't racing. And to try to keep track of what was even happening when your heart rate's at 180 and are like, no. So I think just keeping it simpler for the racers and honestly the fans, like they don't have time to to learn all that. So yeah, some changes could be made, but I think it's heading in the right direction, and I'm glad that they're trying to carve out an esports space.
Right on. So NeXT Esports is recruiting. How do people go ahead and find? I mean, is the team full? Or are you guys still looking for people? What's happening there? You're leading the charge. It sounds like a little bit.
Yeah, we are not full. We are always open for more. So yeah, if you're interested in trying to with us, we would love to hear from you. So you could email us at next.esports.racing@gmail.com or reach out to me directly, and we'll have that.
And the NeXT Esports has a website, right? Like you can find you guys. I wonder.
Yeah.
You do? Yeah. Okay.
Or they're on Instagram too.
Instagram, yeah. Go ahead, reach out to NeXT. If you're looking for an esports team, and it's a high level, obviously, but being amongst, if you're looking for that kind of experience, it sounds like very motivated to do some racing. We've got the season coming up in September and October. No official announcements or anything as of yet, but that comes up pretty quick. Getting everything organized from my own point of view of getting all the broadcasts and everything organized, you start as early as you possibly can. So if you're looking for a team, maybe it's already time to start thinking about that. Liz, it's
Liz, are you sorry?
Liz,
are you racing the Zwift Women's Series season?
Yeah, I was going to ask. You took it out of the show notes. I was going to ask, what are you racing right now? And then you.
Sorry. Yeah,
you deleted it on me.
No, I did the first one, and it was fun, but they didn't even have a week in between racing. And like my kid had preschool graduation 1 week. I've got we're going to Asheville to go mountain biking another week, and I went. All this racing, I gotta keep it under control. So I'm taking.
We had a similar issue, Liz. We had a similar issue in house because Gabby did it, and then we scheduled a meeting for 12:30 the next week. It's like, oh yeah, they'll take a week off, and then all of a sudden Gabby's like, it was so funny this past week. She was like, maybe if I enter the pens really, really late, the TT will schedule me like 20 minutes out, and we can do our meeting and make it really quick, and then start the TT, because it was like it needed just a little feedback. I think it needed a week off, right? I mean, or at least, or even a month, or I don't know, like give it some time.
Yeah, I feel like a month. It seems like at least the EMEA one, the return rate wasn't quite as high, probably.
Well, because it was insane level, and then you're expected to race that all over again, like every single week. I mean, at that level, you need something a little more spaced out.
Yeah, and like I've learned racing causes extra stress. So like getting the kids ready, to be organized, to not bother me again at a time. And it was actually during my kid's school drop off, so my husband was having to like make sure he didn't have meetings so he could take the kid to work for me. So it was just too much. So I got a
question. I got a question here. I know we were about to say goodbye, but I got a question here. My experience of children of a certain age coming in, like if I have the expectation that child, I'm a father of 5. Like I've been through a lot of different kids, like that have come up, and some are out of the house now. Well, so anyways, but at a certain age, I go, oh, okay, somebody come help, like, or something. But it hits a certain point where it's like, can you not see I'm suffering? Like, get out of here. You kind of go, but you feel bad at the same time. Like you're selfish, like right now for even doing that. But there's this horrible tension in you that like, can I be selfish right now about me doing this race? And like, do you not, like, I can't talk to you. If I hear dad one more time, oh my gosh. Like, do you guys have that? But with the mom side of things?
Yeah. I have to say, like, the Grand Prix, there was so much mom guilt for me because the ZRL racing, the community stuff, like they're at school and preschool. So I just do it and it's easy. There's nothing going on. The Grand Prix was like 2 to 3 hours on a Saturday morning where they've been at school. Saturday morning should be time with mom, and I'm downstairs and I can hear them all having breakfast and doing their family time. And I'm like, there was big mum guilt there because I was like, this is taking away like a key part of my time with the kids, and it's a long time. So yeah, I get that. I mean, Liz, obviously you can jump in here too.
Well, I think that's been a huge part of finding the balance with racing and training, right? Like I have a workout queued up and I can do it when is the most convenient time for me and causes the least tension on my family. So that's like been a huge part because I don't have to search for races and then race at less than ideal times and, have not the people show up or not the type of race that you wanted anyway. So you feel like you're just wasting time doing all that. So I like that workouts, you can do them whenever it causes the least problems, basically.
Mm-hmm.
My older boy has gotten to the point where the younger two, so I got 3 boys, and my older boy has gotten to the point where he recognizes dad's suffering state, and he'd be like, and like he knows something might get taken away or there'll be a consequence almost if like they're like bugging dad, like, or something, like, and so leave him alone. I can tell he's like, don't do that right now. Get away from dad. Because it's especially like you said, picking the right race. But there's certain ones like the TTT is at a specific time if I'm going to do it with my team. And it's always during like a Thursday night right after or around dinner time. And so it's like, there's a little bit of a tension that's felt there. So during that, it's an all-in effort the whole time, and I've had quite a few times where I'm like, no, I just kind of mumble some sort of man like at my kids, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here." Anyways, good stuff.
Children.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of the viewership can relate to that. I mean, there's a reason why you have dirt and mert in the world of Zwift, right? I mean, that's a huge thing. That's a absolutely huge thing. So, Liz, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate that. If you want to find Liz and NeXT Esports, I think NeXT Esports the best way to do that, to follow up about the recruiting. And I hope to see you out on Zwift and in the next racing series really, really soon. And of course, coming up after the summer, whatever is happening. And as those updates come, we'll be looking for you as to be a part of it with NeXT Esports.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks, Liz. Well, a lot of fun at the end there with the parenting and Zwifting side of things. That's always a big topic. One that's obviously I'm passionate about or have a lot of experience with, so it starts bubbling up all of these crazy things that happen while you're trying to Zwift and be a parent.
I found so there's good and bad. There's good and bad. So we had a birthday party for my son. So there's just a ton of balloons around the house, and the balloons seem to have all floated down into my training room. And so the kids come down and they love this activity of putting the balloons in front of the fan, because obviously then they blow, all over the room. But first they blow into my face and then all over the room, which they think is hilarious. But I'm on there being like,
I have balloon stories. Have you ever had a balloon become a part of your drivetrain?
Oh no, one got stuck under the pedal, but not on my drivetrain.
Yeah, so I'm in the middle of a KISS 100 race, and balloon somehow gets wrapped. They brought it in, and something boom wrapped into the cassette, and literally so something in me. Okay, so it wasn't the kind of balloon that's one of those just really thin rubber, and that's it. It was one of those shiny ones that's a different, more rough material.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought I could just pedal through it. Okay, it'll just get through it and it'll rip it to pieces and I'll at least finish my race. No, it just got worse the more it got worse.
Oh, no.
Oh, and it's just it became a gunk of balloon in my cassette.
Oh.
I ended up having to take the bike apart because of that one. Oh, it was so bad.
Could you finish the race? No.
No, I had to stop. No, that's what I was trying to do was it's too late. The balloon's in, right? Because I didn't notice. I'm focused, and all of a sudden in stream, I see this, if somebody boom, it's all running behind me into the cassette, comes flying down into the cassette. And I'm I'm going to pedal through it and just rip it to pieces, right? It didn't happen.
Oh my God, that's a shocker. Oh no. Okay, there we go. But the good side of it is that I'm actually looking at it. Next to my bike is my little son's smart bike, and there's a workout I do last night, my time, and that's one where he'll actually come down, and I'm okay with it. Come down with me for 30 minutes, do some of this, because it's a workout, and it's not a hard one, so I can kind of just chat to him while we're doing it, and so that's quite enjoyable. So there's sessions where I'm really trying to invite them in to be part of it, and then hopefully that'll then give them their little fix. And then when it's sessions that I'm I'd prefer to just have mum time here, they don't feel too bad. So kind of striking that balance.
We did similar. We set up their own setup here, and then also have Gabby got a treadmill because she likes to walk, but they've been doing that too. They've been getting on and walking and running in Zwift and putting the pod on and then jumping on, and they get a little motivated when we're on to do it with us, which then they can relate, right? And I've noticed actually now that they can relate with the experience of it, it's really helped them go, oh, that's what's happening right now, instead of having this get off, I don't get it, what are you doing, right? It's the same thing as if I'm playing a game, they understand because they understand that game, that they can get into it with you more, but if they can't relate, I think it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's jump on into our fashion of the week. I really like this, and it also has some events alongside this. This is a cool kit, actually. Ride Like King jersey.
Yes. So there's I saw this pop up. So this is the jersey, but in game, it looks like phenomenal. So go check it out. So Ride Like King, it's run by Giant and Liv. 9 Zwift events over 3 days with open and women's only options. Looks like this Friday there's Wandering Flats, Saturday is RGV, and Sunday is Watopia's Waistband. Oh, wow. Yeah, like the jersey actually looks a slight bit different, but almost cooler. It's like purple with sort of the Ride Like King logo all over it with lighter purple on the armbands. So riders who finish any stage will get this. So I'm going to try and do a stage just because I really want to have this jersey in my garage. And then you may win an in real life jersey. 14 of them signed by King Lou. So that's pretty rad. But yeah, so go check those out. I think just head to Zwift Insider is probably your best place. And last year, 5,000 people did it, riding close to 200,000 K. And then each sort of K, you've got unlocking bikes to give to people in need. So really, really cool cause. So go check it out. I just saw it because it had a really cool kit unlock.
Nice. And then you also had the Envy wheels as a pick. And I'm just going to bring this up here. So alongside of this Liz van Howling's presented by Insured kit, but the Envy wheels here, 7.8s though. Interesting. So what's going on with this garage pick?
The part with the garage pick is so there's a few races where you have neutralized bikes, so the wheels make a big difference. But wheels make a big difference anyway when you're selecting courses. And I really struggle with the best all-rounder wheel. So, I'm trying to think of a course, maybe like Downtown Titans or something where you've got, relatively significant climbs, longer than say 3 minutes. So you don't really want to be using the disc, but then you have a sprint as well where you've got points and you want to get the sprint. I really struggle with what is the best all-rounder wheel set. Like every time I'm like, what do I use? Now, is it the NV 7.8? That's what Eric from Zwift Insider has identified as the best all-rounder. Like it performs well on the climbs and it's, good on the flats as well. But is that right? I mean, is that what you would use as an all-rounder wheel? Because I always kind of default to the disc just because I'm a bit lighter and the climbs are okay. But in women's racing, I need to like nail down my all-rounder wheel.
Yeah, so I tend to let's see here. So the 3.4s, a lot of times I see people going after, at least within our team. This is my go-to. Like I tend to be super lightweight, Tron on the dirt, and just go for the crit racing, bike that's just as aero as it possibly can be. So I just have the deep dish on the Specialized. So, I admittedly have not done enough work here. Like I kind of like in those situations, I'm like, well, this will do enough. And I'm so haven't done the research enough that like I'm trusting other people and what they say. And I get really like, if it's an area that I've done the work in already and I know that this will work, I'm like, is that really going to work the way they think? And I kind of try and trust what I know is at least proven in the past. So, and there's a lot of different opinions in this, in some areas that I feel like the science isn't settled. That's where I'm at on it. And so even with the tests, I'm like, yeah, but those tests weren't in situations with this kind of speed or these kinds of punches. And I'm like, so like, it's hard for me to, but I think the Scott with the 3.4s, or even with the lightweight, the Scott with the lightweight is a really good all-arounder that you can put that Scott Addict with a different wheel sets, and it's like this kind of in the middle of the road bike that you can set up in ways that will be really good in a lot of different situations. At least that's my take on that. But yeah, I think the NV 7.8s are also around that, but I don't know.
They just don't look good. Like I don't like the aesthetic look of them.
No, they don't.
To be fair,
they don't.
I would probably, they don't look great. I think I'd probably, to be fair, just go Tron for an all-rounder. And with ZRL, racing coming back again later in the year, there'll be those all-rounder courses. You're looking at the Muckle Yin. You need an all-rounder bike on something like that. So, yeah, Tron maybe I think is where I'd go first. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that there's a ton of wheels in there, and there's a lot of good all-rounder ones. And I think you need to go figure out the best one so you've got it locked and loaded in your head, because otherwise I think, like me, I sit there before a race going, is it this one? Should I do this one? Which one? This one?
One thing that we missed in the beginning of the show, actually, I just want to highlight this really quick as we move on from the did you rate those? Did you rate them? I give that King, those King jerseys are like in the 8s for sure. That's like a high 8. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go like an 8.
Yeah.
I just realized I'm really low on the camera. Sorry, I look like a little midget here.
Okay, and then one other thing here, the Summit Seekers, something if you want to go do with the new Robo Pacers, which I now feel better about saying Robo Pacer. I'm going to keep on admitting that because I was so against Robo Pacer for the longest time, and now I'm like, fine, they actually look like robots. It makes sense.
It's good. Yeah, this is cool.
Summit Seekers.
This is real good. Yeah.
Go ahead, talk about it.
Yeah, I actually saw this because I was like, oh, if you're wanting to go set a fast time up the Alp, I'd do it for the Alp. I think they're doing Ven Top as well. But for the Alp, they've got Robo Pacers heading up at certain times. I think it's every 3 hours. So you'll definitely find a time that suits you to go up. And it's so there's like a 49-minute time, 59 and other times as well. So you could go pick, like say, okay, this is the time I want to do my sub 1 hour Alp. Go pick that 59 rider, the Robo Pacer, stay with them. So yeah, cool. This is a cool thing. I love this. I didn't even see this last year, but apparently it was super popular. So yeah, and try some different pacing strategies, like, go out hard, see if you can stay ahead of them or stick with them. And then in the last 3 corners, try and blow past them. So yeah, awesome. If you're wanting to get those fast times up the Alp, go check that out this weekend. Yeah, next weekend, I think. Sorry. Yeah, the 26th of May. So coming up next weekend.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is going to be a consistent feature for quite a long time, or if it's, I think this is one of the best features they can, because it's one of the most popular events that I've put on, actually, like as far as putting on an event. Well, I shouldn't say popular as far as participation, but like the excitement around like this kind of a thing seems to really be a pull, and it's something new to do, right? Like this is definitely a new thing to do that's in-game feature, so pretty cool. All right, what are you up to for the next week? Before go ahead.
Do you want to give a shout out to Kev O'Pelli or Peel? I always get that wrong. Sorry, Kev, from NZ Bro. He is riding 24 hours on Zwift, starting at lunchtime New Zealand time today. So starting in about 4 or 5 hours, he'll be on Zwift for 24 hours. He's raising money for fellow teammate Gareth, who's going through some cancer treatment. So if you're on Zwift, maybe go follow Kev and then click the Ride With feature and go join him for a bit. I'm sure he'd like some company, especially from our North American and European listeners who will probably be able to go on when he's in the depths of midnight to 5 a.m. Terrible time to be alone on a bike. So go join him at that time. I'm sure he'd love a few ride-ons and a bit of friendly avatar faces out there.
Always so awesome to see the community supporting each other, especially through the ways that they can in a virtual world. Very, very cool. So what are you up to next week, though? I'm going to go race UCI event this weekend. That's about it. I mean, we got short track on Friday. We've got XC and XC, double XC, Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be blown out come Monday. Oh, my gosh.
Are they live streaming that anywhere? Can you watch your racing in UCI?
I don't think so for this. That'd be really cool if they were, but no, like a lot. And there was going to be coverage of a lot of the U.S. side of things, and then a lot of it got pulled, it looked like, and like the only coverage that's happening, it looked like, are the HCs down in Arkansas or something that's a part of a very specific promoter, and then it's got a paywall on it too. So I don't know how well it's doing, so we got to figure out. So we still got to figure that cycling coverage thing out a little bit more in the US, it seems like.
I am, at the moment, I've got planned a 2-hour trail run tomorrow morning, very early morning before my son's has a soccer game. So yeah, out trail running in the dark with a head torch with a friend. So should be a bit of fun. You'll love this, Nathan. In like 3 weeks, I've got a 65-kilometer fast packing trail run to do. So yeah, got to get some running in the legs.
Well, I guess with the temperatures coming down, it's a lot. I mean, that makes sense as far as an outdoor event, I would think, right? Like,
it's not an event. It's just a friend of mine and I. We go and do in New Zealand. We've got like great walks, so it'd be like your national parks. So we have these like great walks all around New Zealand, and so we're trying to go run them all. So instead of taking 3 days to walk them, we run them in a day. Usually takes about 10 to 12 hours. This one's in the South Island, so likely snow. So we'll be doing a little bit of snow running. Yeah, so it'll be a little bit of an adventure. Fun times with the trail running.
This isn't even a competition. This is what you're doing for fun with a friend. 10 hours of trail running. Oh, my God. How do you have knees?
Yeah. There we go. This is another story.
That's another story. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We have been live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. It is a podcast. Head on over to ZwiftCommunityLive.com to find all of these podcasts all the way up to episode 43, and episode 44 will be there real soon. Or anywhere that you do download your podcast, all you do is search The Wrap and Zwift, and it does come up real quick for you. You can download this as well. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You hit those likes, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff wherever you're watching. It really does help us out. This has been episode number 44. We'll see you next week for episode 45. From myself and Anna, as always, right on.